Rosa is hoping to get drivers to slow down by lowering the speed limits on dozens of streets.
And we actually don't use the word accident because that implies that something couldn't have been prevented.
We'll hear from a safety advocate feeling optimistic about the city's efforts to cut down on crashes. San Mateo County's sheriff leaves court after a full day on the stand, defending herself from corruption allegations that could cost her job.
He had an answer for everything.
What she had to say about allegations of retaliation, conflicts of interest, and even her $8,000 earrings. And some North Bay seniors fighting to buy their mobile home park.
We're fighting for our lives here.
Why they say they've already been paying to purchase the land for decades. And later, from farm to table to bay.
Oysters are so important to marine ecosystems.
We'll introduce you to the researchers using discarded oyster shells to protect local ecosystems.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Good evening. It's a push for safer streets in the North Bay. The city of Santa Rosa wants to force drivers to slow down in hopes of slashing the number of crashes. So tonight, the city council is considering a plan that would reduce the speed limit by 5 miles an hour on nearly 30 street segments across town. The new speed limits would range from 25 to 40 miles per hour, and they'd be forced and enforced by radar. Our Suji Nam spoke with locals who say they actually welcome this change.
For Eris Weaver, biking is her passion.
This bike is my main form of transportation.
As the head of the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition, she advocates for improved transportation safety measures.
A lot of our crashes or collisions are caused by the way our roads and streets have been designed and our land use policies that make it hard for people to get around without a car.
And that is why she is optimistic about the city of Santa Rosa's proposal to reduce the speed limit by 5 miles per hour along 29 streets. Weaver has decked out her bike with all of her own safety measures.
Got my rear view mirror so I can see behind me. Video cameras front and back, so if someone hits me, I have evidence.
She says this proposal will help encourage drivers to slow down and save lives.
If a pedestrian or cyclist is hit by a car going, 20 miles an hour, they got a 90% chance of surviving. If that car's going 40 miles an hour, they have a 90% chance of dying. And vehicles have been getting bigger and bigger.
The lower speed limits are a part of the wider Vision Zero plan in Sonoma County, which aims to reduce the number of traffic deaths and injuries to zero by the year 2030. According to the latest county data, there were more than 300 crashes in the city of Santa Rosa in 2021, a drop from nearly 500 crashes in 2020. Emily Jareggi, who works at Café de Croissants just off of the busy Mendocino Avenue, says speeding is a growing concern.
It's on a very busy road, so a lot of cars, are going very fast, especially a hill. It's very hard to slow down when pedestrians are going. I am an aunt, so, it's still very, important for me because, I want to make sure, it's okay for me to walk with my nephew and my niece with a stroller,
The city is also looking at redesigning streets to narrow lane widths and add new dedicated bike lanes. Weaver says she plans to continue her fight.
Advocate for the cities and the county to improve the bike infrastructure so that more people are able to get the joy that I feel every day riding my bike.
Hoping this plan will be just one of many more resources to come to help keep everyone safe on the road.
Once approved, the new signs are expected to be installed over the coming months. Police will then issue warnings to drivers during a 30-day grace period. Right now, Vallejo police investigating a double homicide. Police say 2 men were shot and killed around 9:30 last night. It happened on Amelia Street near Six Flags and the Solano Fairgrounds. There's not a lot of details about what led up to this shooting, but officers say they found 2 men with gunshot wounds. 1 man died at the scene while the other died at the hospital. The victims' names have not been released. Detectives are still investigating the motive, and they have not announced any suspects yet. A major retail theft ring busted in the South Bay, and authorities say the suspects were responsible for more than 80 thefts at TJ Maxx stores throughout California. That includes 11 Bay Area locations, including stores in Livermore, San Ramon, Foster City, and San Mateo. The sheriff's office says stores in Sacramento, San Joaquin, and San Bernardino counties were also targeted. So this is a look at some of the stolen merchandise. The Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office says more than $380,000 worth of stolen merchandise and drugs were recovered last week. So far, 8 people connected to the retail thefts have been arrested.
One of the things about these operations, they're very complex, they're very widespread. So they start off with maybe just a simple arrest of a shoplifter, but then they build upon that.
The sheriff's office is looking for 8 more suspects and is asking anyone with information to contact detectives. San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus in the hot seat for a second day, denying all allegations that she used her power as sheriff to target critics and favor allies. So our cameras captured Sheriff Corpus as she left the public hearing that will determine if she should be removed from office. Right now, she's facing allegations of corruption and misconduct. Corpus answered questions from the county's attorneys about allegations she retaliated against employees. Another issue, pay raises. She pushed through for top aide Victor Ianje. Corpus has denied the two that had a romantic relationship.
It doesn't really matter if it was romantic, but the fact that he was so close to you, giving you gifts, you're having lunch all the time, and you're promoting him, you're moving him up the ladder when he doesn't necessarily deserve it, that's where I think the conflict of interest comes in.
At the end, this civil hearing, a judge will make a recommendation to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors about whether Corpus should stay as sheriff. The Board of Supervisors still has the final say. California Republicans are not taking Governor Gavin Newsom's redistricting plan without a fight, so they filed a lawsuit this morning to stop it. So you're looking at maps that show what's at stake. On the left side, it shows the current districts with a party breakdown. Then on the right side, you can see the new maps that state Democrats are proposing, along with the likely party breakdown going forward. The plan could give Democrats 5 more seats by carving up current districts up north and then reshaping GOP strongholds in the Central Valley and Southern California. So Newsom's move is meant to counteract Texas's redistricting plan, which could possibly give Republicans 5 more seats in Congress. Republicans argue that Newsom's plan is illegal, and they're asking the California Supreme Court to enforce a 30-day public review period as required by the state's constitution.
The legislature and the governor didn't have the authority to do what they did last night. They didn't have the votes to do what they did last night. That's why we're filing this lawsuit today.
The California State Senate went forward with their plan to redraw the state's congressional maps. California Dems say the move would be temporary, but not necessarily to protect the voters of California.
California will not bend the knee to authoritarian demands. We will not allow red states to strip seats in Congress, and we will not stand silent while the communities we represent are robbed of their voices.
Meanwhile, in Texas, Representative Nicole Collier was locked in the State House last night. This because she was refusing to sign a permission slip requiring her and other Democrats to be under the supervision of law enforcement. Collier said the move, quote, violates her dignity as a human being. Residents in a Marin County mobile home community are making a bold move to ensure that their homes are secured. We're talking about the Marin Valley Mobile Country Club, a mobile home park for seniors. It's located in southern Nevada, that's just east of 101. Our John Remus met with some community members just today who say they've been paying for decades to purchase the land, but are now locked in a battle with the city.
The seniors living in this mobile home park were forward-thinking. In 1997, they hatched a plan to purchase the property to give themselves more housing stability, and they've been paying on the loan ever since. But now that it's almost all paid off, rather than becoming the owners, the city is telling them that they have to pay for it all over again. The residents of the Marin Valley Mobile Country Club don't mind being over the hill. In fact, that's where they would like to stay. The 319-unit complex houses 400 elderly residents, with more than 90% being low income.
And housing security, financial security, and a community is key to aging well.
So they entered into an agreement to pay $17 million to buy the property. They didn't have collateral, so the city stepped up to guarantee the bank loan.
The original intent was that we would own the park when it was paid off. The city has changed that tune quite a bit over the years.
The city has paid nothing for this piece of property. The residents have paid for everything. Initially, our name was supposed to be on the title. Somewhere in the paperwork, it got lost and the city took title.
Currently, with a little more than $1 million left to pay on the loan, the city of Novato is the legal owner of the park and considers itself to be the residents' landlord. So when the homeowners once again offered to buy the property, this time for $20 million, the city refused, demanding $26 million instead. The residents say they came to that figure by ignoring the status of the park as low-income, seniors-only housing.
They basically told the appraiser, you don't have to take that in consideration when you're doing the evaluation of the park, because it may not necessarily move. It doesn't have to necessarily continue with the sale of the park.
We're fighting for our lives here. A lot of people will not be able to afford to move if the status changes. I'm vulnerable. I think most of the people here are vulnerable.
And while the city demands an extra $6 million for land it hasn't paid a dime for, some are wondering why they should have to pay anything more at all.
The city's had a lot of financial issues, fiscal issues, and I think for them to try and solve it on the backs of a low-income senior housing is just unconscionable. And they need to look elsewhere for funds rather than try and double dip here and make us pay twice.
In all the years that I was here and things seemed to be going along fine, I would say, okay, it looks like everything, but in the back of my head, I'm saying we're owned by politicians. What could not go wrong?
The residents plan to appear at next week's council meeting. They are in the unusual position of having a landlord that may one day be asking for their vote.
We asked the city for a response, but they refused, saying they cannot comment because the negotiations are ongoing and confidential. All right, meantime, there's a bit of a warm-up on the way. Here's a live look over the Diablo Valley area from our camera on Mount Diablo. That makes sense. And that will be one of the hot spots. That's according to Chief Meteorologist Paul Hagan. He's here with the heat advisory that was just issued for later this week. Hey, Paul.
Yeah, we haven't had many of these stretches of hot weather, and it certainly didn't feel like a hot stretch is coming based on today's temperatures, which were very close to normal for this time of year. Only a 22-degree difference from Half Moon Bay to inland in Concord, but even the hot spot in Concord fell short of 90 degrees. That's not going to be the case tomorrow, and then the heat advisory goes into effect on Thursday. It's going to continue Thursday and Friday, and it's not just us. It is much of California under either heat advisories or excessive heat warnings. And there's going to be enough of an offshore breeze that they're concerned about the fire danger in the hills above Los Angeles. Southern California is going to have to dodge that threat. But despite the building heat, it's not going to be record-setting around the Bay Area, and our fire danger is not going to be off the charts. We'll talk about both of those factors coming up in the full forecast, and we'll talk about how long this is going to last in just a few minutes.
All right, see you in a bit, Paul. Still ahead right here at 6. Don't just throw them away. How one group uses discarded oyster shells to help restore waterways. Plus, Oracle Park is trading a baseball diamond for a soccer pitch. We'll check in with the Bay FC as they get ready to play in the home of the Giants. Oysters, they are considered a delicacy. In fact, nearly 2 billion are eaten every year across the globe. But did you ever actually think about what happens to the shells after they've eaten? Our Max Darrow has a look at a project that collects the shells to help restore local ecosystems.
You can see a little oyster there.
They're small yet mighty organisms.
Oysters are so important to marine ecosystems.
And if anybody knows a thing or two about oysters and the role they play as ecosystem engineers and shoreline stability stalwarts.
But they filter 10, 20, 30 gallons of water a day.
It's Jeevan Kaki.
They help to clean the water of pollutants and particulates and algae that we might not want in it. My whole kind of drive as a scientist is to see the species succeed and to help restore our estuaries because we really depend on them.
Kaki is the lead scientist for the Wild Oyster Project. It's a group that is working to bring native oysters back to San Francisco Bay.
Because of historic human activity and historic changes in the bay, we really lost a lot of our oyster populations in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And only recently have they really started to come back with our restoration efforts.
That includes the team's creation of these oyster reef balls, aka orbs. You can see the top sticking out above the water at low tide, to build the Heron's Head Oyster Reef in Bayview Hunters Point.
It's so cool to see projects like this work. We've exceeded our project goals each year. We keep finding more and more oysters on the reef balls, which is pretty exciting.
The team built the orbs with a material best suited for success, recycled oyster shells. And they're able to acquire them largely thanks to people in the Bay Area having quite the appetite for oysters.
We sell about 3,000 oysters a week.
Rachel Barrett and her team at Mission Rock Resort don't throw out their oyster shells. They put them in bins like these for the Wild Oyster Project to pick up on a routine basis.
They're here usually once a week.
And they're just one of many restaurants doing this. She and the team say they depend on fresh and clean seafood to run their business.
We are very focused on local product.
So they feel like supporting an effort to maintain and revitalize the local marine ecology is really a no-brainer.
No matter how big, how small, everybody can make a contribution.
So we use the shell for all kinds of stuff. We use it in oyster reef balls. We use it in other oyster restoration projects. We've also started partnering with marsh restoration efforts.
Kaki says the mission to restore habitats and protect shorelines is only growing more important for the region as sea levels rise and the climate changes.
We depend on bays for recreation. We depend on them for just the beauty of them. We depend on them for so much economic interest. Everybody that lives on a bay, even if you don't go to the beach every year, you depend on it in one way or another.
And fostering an environment for these small creatures to flourish may play a mighty role in the bay's health and future.
The Wild Oyster Project is also using oyster shells to restore the Napa River salt marsh, a habitat for ground nesting birds. As of June, they now have 15 active nests. 10 gold shovels digging into a San Francisco Park project. Community members and Mayor Daniel Lurie, they broke ground on the final phase of a new 10-acre waterfront park coming to Bayview Hunters Point. So the plan combines the India Basin Shoreline Park with the property at 900 Inns. It will cost $225 million and should be completed at the end of 2027 or the beginning of 2028. Once the makeover is complete, the park will feature a new beach, boathouse, a pier, basketball courts, and an area to grill. Sounds nice. Coming up, women's pro soccer is coming to Oracle Park. We have a preview of the Bay FC's historic game this Saturday. All right, let's get to our weather forecast. My sources in the weather department,
standing right here, literally
Paul
right here,
Hagen, are telling us that we're in for a heat up, a warm up.
So it's going to be hot, but only for a few days.
Okay.
And I don't think we're going to set any records. So it's kind of like every hot spell we've had so far this year, where it's like, okay, we can handle this
Then
for
we
a few
get
days.
to cool off.
Then
All right,
we get
after.
back down to normal temperatures as we head into the weekend.
PG&E still does shutoffs, though. Just saying.
It's possible if you live in higher elevations, but our fire threat also not going to be a huge concern. We'll get to all of that momentarily. Let's talk about the big picture perspective here. Today's temperature pattern across the state indicated some hotter ratings to the Central Valley, but the real bulk of the real heat way off to our southeast in Nevada and Arizona, where you expect it to be. Let's take a look at Thursday's pattern. Just 48 hours from now, we are going to be seeing a significant uptick in temperatures. In fact, all of this white spreading out through the Central Valley, that purplish white indicates temperatures in the 100 to 110 degree range. And there are going to be parts of Southern California that get up to about 115. Now, around the Bay Area, our hottest temperatures will top 100 degrees. But at this time of year, that's not enough to set any new records. And that heat is not here yet. So enjoy the comfortable temperatures we have out there this evening, along with the abundant sunshine. Temperatures anywhere from 65 downtown to 84 degrees in Santa Rosa. So that difference in temperatures beginning to narrow down already. We'll end up in the 50s to around 60 degrees by early tomorrow morning. Let's track the fog as we head through the rest of tonight. It's reforming at the coast already, and we're going to continue to see that trying to spread out as we head through the night. But largely confined to the coast and right around the bay past midnight, and then it begins to sneak into some of the inland valleys. But where it does make a bit of an inland intrusion, it's not going to last long, backing up pretty quickly to the coast as we head towards mid-morning, and we'll see plenty of sunshine for the rest of the day. And those inland temperatures are going to be significantly warmer as we head into the afternoon. Here's a look at those forecast highs for tomorrow, reaching up to the upper 80s and low 90s in the Santa Clara Valley, about 5 to 10 degrees above normal, pretty much across the board. Mid to upper 90s east of the Oakland Hills. The hottest spots close to 100 degrees from Fairfield to Antioch to Brentwood. It'll be a mix of 70s and 80s around the bay with still 60s at the coast. So this is kind of more of the typical August pattern that we expect. A lot of 80s for the North Bay, but 90s in Santa Rosa and up to 101 degrees in Healdsburg by tomorrow afternoon. That'll be one of the hot spots on the map. A little too hot for an afternoon walk for our dog of the day, an adoptable dog of the day. This is Bailey, who is adoptable from Lily's Legacy. She's not going to let a little August heat get her down, but she's definitely not going to want to be standing on the artificial turf during the heat of the afternoon for the next few days. Again, get your pups out for an early day walk or closer to sunset for the next few days. But even with the hotter temperatures, our heat risk is not going to be off the charts. Our fire danger index combines all the different factors we look at when evaluating the fire threat and just ranks it from 0 to 10. Well, today's fire risk topped out lower than halfway up that scale. Just a couple of spots making it to the halfway point on that scale tomorrow, around Healdsburg, where the hottest temperatures will be. And it's a similar story on Thursday, even as the heat peaks, with more spots getting up to around 100 degrees. Fire threat's not going to be off the charts because the winds aren't going to be that strong. And even when we do have a few 20+ mile-an-hour wind gusts in the late afternoon and early evening, it's still going to be an onshore breeze, and that does help us out. It doesn't eliminate the fire threat. We can never say that this time of year, but it does help to keep it at least in check. Could be a lot worse. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast. And again, this is a brief heat wave. Temperatures at their hottest tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, and then we're back to near normal temperatures over the weekend and below normal temperatures by early next week. Same story around the bay, where the hottest day is only going to be around 80 degrees, a mix of 70s and low 80s. Then right back to the middle portion of the 70s. And at the coast, after a few days of more sunshine peeking through those coastal clouds, you're going to be back to foggiest weather as we hit the weekend. Let's take a look at that 7-day forecast for the coast real quick. Yep, there's all the fog showing up Saturday through the middle of next week. Jules?
Love it. All right, when we come back, we're in the home stretch of the Valkyries' first season as the team makes its push for the playoffs. We'll preview tonight's showdown against the Phoenix Mercury. Oracle Park will be hosting a different kind of pitch this weekend. Bay FC, the women's pro soccer team, will take the field Saturday afternoon. So Oracle Park has hosted soccer matches before, but this will be Bay FC's first match in the home of the Giants. The team has already sold tens of thousands of tickets. It's an extra special game for Bay Area natives Joelle Anderson and Carly Lima, who grew up as Giants fans.
I didn't think that would ever happen, but now it's just like a dream come true. So I think when I step out on that pitch, obviously just going to take it all in.
We've grown up here and going to those games and watching them on TV, so I think just playing there is just surreal, and I think we have a lot more to play for than just ourselves.
The game against the Washington Spirit is set to kick off at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Also, a big game tonight for the Golden State Valkyries, who sit right in the middle of a tight sprint to the playoffs tonight. The Phoenix Mercury enter Valhalla looking for their third win of the season against Golden State. They're ahead of the Valks by 2.5 games. And of course, you can watch this showdown on our sister station Pix Plus. Pre-game coverage with Vern, Matt, Kelsey, and the whole crew starts in just a few moments on Channel 44, Cable 12. Meantime, the CBS Evening News is next on KPIX. Local news always streaming on our streaming service, CBS News Bay Area. Back right here in 30 minutes with more news just for you, right at 7. Go Valkyries.